Guys, I'm going to level with you. Many of us, we've been lied to by none other than ourselves. If you're going through a breakup or a divorce, there's a very good chance that the majority of us, that we're going to initially blame ourselves for the breakup. Perhaps you became too complacent in the marriage, or you let yourself go, or you just wouldn't let her breathe. But here's the thing, chances are that if you're watching this, you didn't ask for the divorce. Chances are that you did a great deal to get her to stay at the price of your own self-worth. Now she's worn you down and she wants out. But you think, how could I let her go? She's the most beautiful girl in the world. So the guilt, it sets in. Thing is that she's leaving and she blames you for everything, but you're being bamboozled, you're being lied to, mixed up, misled, deceived, tricked. You get the point. Thing is that she blames you for so much bravado that she begins to believe her lies, and it all gets into your head and you break believing the excrement that's coming from her mouth. You're in a precarious position because, well, arguing back will only push her away further. So you further get broken down as you're forced to hear her scream and you plead. Then she smells blood and things get worse because, well, you just can't reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth. Why does your ex blame you for the divorce when over 70% of women leave? Will she ever apologize for the crap that she put you through, or will she even regret her decision to leave? Let's find out, and let's start revving that engine. A few years ago, Avon released a survey with over 2,000 divorced men and women asking their thoughts on marriage and divorce. First, they were asked if they believed in the institution of marriage, and nearly two-thirds of the women said yes, versus only half of the men saying they do to I do. I consult with a lot of men who felt that they were pissed because, well, they felt pressured into getting married only to be forced into a divorce and then forced into paying something like alimony when they felt they had little or no control in their circumstances. And I get it. The existentialist in me, it agrees that we have free will, and therefore no one is in the Western world is pressured to get married. But it's not quite that simple, because that's fucked up. When a man dates a woman for 5 years or so, especially during her childbearing age, there's a feeling of obligation to marry that person, especially when the female starts developing symptoms of baby rabies. So more women, they believe in the institution of marriage than men. Yet, when it comes to it, it's well established that over 70% of divorces are initiated by the women. What's up? But when they were asked who was responsible for the end of their marriage, nearly two-thirds of divorced women blamed their ex. That compared to about half the guys blaming their ex. So, what's going on? According to the author of the study, Dr. Pepper Schwartz, these are her words. It might be that women believe that self-blame is not empowering, and men feel that though it's not masculine to blame their wives. Now, I don't have a problem with what she said regarding the women. Clearly, very clearly, self-blame is not empowering. But her comment about men, how less than 50% of them blame their wife because it's not masculine feature, is just way out of any concept of any study that I've ever done, and shows lack of understanding of what men go through when we're getting divorced. The mere fact that the word masculinity was mentioned in "it might be" response without mentioning the feminist movement, it shows some bias here. And I'll take a different argument, that it's not out of strength that the female leaves, but mostly because, well, we became their very own pussies. Here's what I generalize is going on for a good portion of divorced men. The wife, she contemplates divorce and she begins living in her quiet desperation, and resentment, it starts building. Soon the resentment, it continues, and all those little things that annoyed her now become a reason for her to fight, and she's not happy. She stops picking her battles and she comes at you and blames you for saying hi the wrong way. She's not in a good place, and because she's so unhappy with her life, everything that happens to her is now your fault. So you stonewall because, well, that's what guys do. We try to stonewall to avoid an argument. Now her frustration, it turns into tears of anger, tears of despair, and tears of deep, dark sadness as she's starting to mourn the marriage quietly. Now when she's alone in the house, she's at peace, but when you're alone in the house, you just wait for her to come home and you become needy. Suddenly, she says those words, "I want a divorce." As you try to save the marriage, you become further complacent, further pissing her off because, well, maybe that's what got her to fall out of love with you in the first place, that you lost your edge. But her real anger is with herself, and she's not in a good place. But you're her obstacle, and you're the one that's getting in her way. She'll blame you for shit that you did years ago during fights, and that's when you must begin to listen, because if she does that, She's just picking a fight at random, and that's going to be her narrative for leaving you. Perhaps you were never around when she wanted you, but you were too worried thinking about how to make ends meet, so you worked long hours. You knew that she deserves better in both time and attention, but unfortunately your time, it was limited by the resources available to you. Perhaps you were genuinely concerned about losing the house, and you limited her spending, and she became resentful because, well, you were neglectful and controlling, and now she's broken because you broke her. As she tells you that she's done, you focus on what you did and how you could lose someone that you now consider the price, and you feel horribly guilty. Gentlemen, that's not manipulation, that's straight up gaslighting. And you begin losing the grasp on reality and start questioning what really happened. So you blame yourself. In a survey I did with one of the fastest growing men's divorce support group on Facebook, I took a similar poll. I asked the men who they felt was mostly responsible for during the breakup during the first 2 months of their split. So looking back at it, during the first 2 months, who they felt was responsible. 52% of the guys felt that they were initially the ones responsible for the divorce. One of the guys, he summed it up in rather textbook fashion, because this is how many guys feel. So as he put it, quote, "Well, I spent the first 6 or so weeks in denial. I assumed that I was damn near 90% my fault. Soon after transitioning out of the denial phase and coming back to reality, I realized that she was projecting and essentially trying to justify and rationalize her decision. Although I could accept that I could have done more, I refused to accept her narrative." First 6 weeks, that's amazing, because it takes many guys months to years to get that beyond the denial phase. But as he put it, that's usually what I see. Often the men are so broken that they begin blaming themselves, and they go through the denial and guilt phase. But when they get through this horrible stage, there's a 180 when the fog of war leaves. You begin to see her for what she really is, mixed up in her own cognitive dissonances, as she usually believes her crap. And that's when you get angry, because all this time, rather than kissing her ass, you could have been and should have been preparing for the inevitable. But you only have yourself to blame here because, well, she didn't stutter when she said that she wanted a divorce. For me, I didn't blame myself, not once. It was black and white for me. It was the Allies versus the Nazis. There was no in between. I did contribute in the end by losing my masculinity as she threw temper tantrums and fuck yous at me. This girl, she became unhinged, and I swore that it was a midlife crisis or hormones, but I never thought that it was another guy. I don't know, maybe the humane in me would have thought that when you cheat on someone, you just become nicer to the person that you're cheating on because maybe there's some form of guilt. But it's to the contrary, because, well, their cognitive dissonance kicks in, and they actually make what they consider good reasons for their behavior to justify it. Now, I'm telling you this because for the most part, we men were logical creatures, and to save you the grief of second-guessing your integrity, think long and hard and logically about your situation. The one advice that I can give you here is for the sake of your relationship and for yourself, do not lose your self-respect, and don't let her disrespect you anymore. She lost that privilege when she said that she wanted out, and let her know that you revoked those privileges when she decided to leave the team. Now, I know most of you guys, you would love to see a simple apology or even a regret, but fat chance, because, well, it's a very low chance of this, especially the divorce if it gets contested. As for an apology, fat chance. You're not going to get one from her. They'll sooner forget. They moved on, and while you're there wondering what the hell is happening, she already started her new life. There's no remorse, especially because, well, as mentioned earlier, 2/3 of them actually believe that you're the one to blame, that you're the one that let her down. But you didn't let her down. You may have left her guard down, but not her. Now, that said, if you're looking for signs that she wants you back and asks for you to get back together, well, the data is bleak at best. And be suspicious of what she wants because, well, that same Apple study, the one I mentioned earlier, it goes on to say that the sad fact is 73% of women versus 61% of men do not regret their divorce. So 3/4 of women versus 2/3 of men don't regret it. Now, when asked why women regret leaving, the answer, it's more cynical. Many regret leaving, not out of love, but out of loneliness, impact on their children, and financial security. But men, they, us, we regret it out of love. So the message behind this is clear, and no, I know it's easier said than done, but we have to surrender to our new fate, and don't postpone your life just because, well, she decided to walk out on you. You just can't do that to yourself. Gentlemen, even of the men that I've seen return with their ex, first it was because the man tried returning and not her. There was no remorse, and all of them were all broken up within 2 years. So I asked them, what if you knew your fate? Would you fight it? What you're doing is you're using hope as tactic, wish as praying. You're scared, and fear, it could be a powerful motivator. You just have to make it your tailwind rather than your headwind. And if you can learn to channel that, then you can find your fate. Now, as a divorce coach, one of the biggest feedback I get, it's not empathy nor that I know my shit. That's par for the course. It comes with the territory. The biggest feedback I get is that I have a unique ability to help men think differently and more optimistically. That I get the results done. So if you're going through a divorce, stop stonewalling. Go to the comment section, and I have a link there. In the link, you can join our free and confidential Facebook group and make a one-on-one with me, because no bullshit. Right now, you can't see the forest from the trees, but in a year from now, you do have a choice. You can try and go through this by yourself, all alone, in pain, and wish the pain away, and that the time will take it away. Or you can look back at this horrible event and say that you conquered your worst case scenario. So reach out.
I'ma wake up, do bench. Join number 7, sport. Working on 90.
8, 9, 9, 9, 9. Was it 9? 9. Don't you stay with me one more day. So you get. Gentlemen, even of the men that I've seen return with their ex, the first